Can everybody hear me? Great. My name's Susan Mardele, and I'm the website coordinator for the city of McKinney, Texas. And McKinney is about 30 miles north of Dallas-Fort Worth. We were the #1 city in the country, according to Money Magazine, in 2014, and we were on that list for a number of years. And it's a nice little town. I loved what the previous speaker said. You know, love your city. It's a pretty cool place. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Google Analytics for beginners today. And the reason I decided to do this, the reason it even came to my mind is because when I came to work for the city, I had done a little bit of analytics collection in my previous job, but when I came to the city was not collecting analytics, and so I needed to do that. I mean, that's how we were going to know what was going on the website. So I started a journey 7.5 years ago, yeah, with our website. At that time, we just had 3 websites. Now we have 6, including our intranet, and it's a much bigger presence and much more professional presence. And of course, the world has changed a lot in 7 or 8 years. So just going to mention my background, and the reason for doing that is because the people here at NAGW, I've been coming, this is my 7th year, we're all from different backgrounds, and we interact with the web differently and with the public differently. So how I came to this was I was a freelance writer. First of all, I had a corporate career, and then I was a freelance writer for nearly 20 years. And as a part of that, I had a contract with Verizon to manage web content, and that was by virtue of the writing experience that I'd had. So I came into it as a writer, and I learned their content management system. And then as I left that and then found the job with the city a couple years later, it was by virtue of that I got this job to manage the websites. It was a very different proposition. At Verizon, I had a little piece of the website. I had long distance, and then I had online help. But just a little piece, they must have had 100 people managing their full website. So it was just that little piece. And as I came to the city of McKinney, I had the whole thing. So I had to think about hosting, and I had to think about what content management system, and I had to think about all those things, analytics included. So then I had to figure out how to do it, because honestly, I didn't know how to do it. And I wish there had been a session like this that I knew about that I could have come to, where somebody would just say, hey, here are the definitions, here's the interface, here's how it works. So anyway, that's kind of how I got here and why I thought this might be useful, and I'm glad you all are here. I'm really curious to know why you're here, and how many people are kind of on the communications and marketing side? Okay, and how many are in the on the IT side? Wow, okay. What I'm going to be doing today is just, first of all, talking about the City of McKinney websites a little bit, and then later I'm going to be talking about the reporting. So I want you to understand what I'm going to be talking about, the websites I'm going to be talking about. So here's what I'm hoping that you get out of this session. I'm hoping you find out a little bit how to use Google Analytics to make decisions about your websites. For me, it's not that difficult. It's not a complex thing. It's pretty simple, just going from the Google Analytics. Know where to go for the information. One of the hardest things for me coming into Google Analytics was, where the heck is all that stuff located? And then keeping the reports simple. Not simple and simplistic, but simple in the sense that a lot of the constituents for whom I provide the reports, they're not needing a lot of information. They're wanting a small amount. And when I overwhelm them with a lot of complexity, then it becomes confusing. So that's why I put this in here, to keep the reports simple and speak to your audience and what they're really looking for. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a roadmap of where we're going today. We're going to look at the City of McKinney websites, and I'm going to go back and forth between my presentation and a browser. And then I'm going to talk about I'm going to do a basic walkthrough through Google Analytics, just the interface. And then I'm going to go through the reporting that we do and why I report the things that I report. And then I'm going to offer some insights and tips. Now, the The reports and this presentation are available on our website, and you'll get that link here at the end, where we have the ability to create some very simple links on our website and hidden pages. So I'm able to offer you a link directly to this information, so you can go on a little bit more if you'd like to. So, City McKinney websites. I'm going to minimize this. So this is the City McKinney website, the main website, and this gets a lot of traffic every month. We've got the longer pages. We redesigned all of our sites last year. We had 5 at the time, and then we added 1 more. So we use the mega menus. And we have on this website not only our main website, but we're able to create a website within a website. So now we've created 5 or 6 websites within this website for different events and departments and such. So I collect analytics for all of these different entities, and I produce probably 6 to 10, depending on the month, 6 to 10 reports every month. So this is the main website, and this is our EDC website. So these are discrete websites with their own URL. They're all based on the Civic Plus platform. So our main website is called it is our anchor website, and all the rest of them are considered to be subsites, but they are individual. They just are all based on the same technology. So this is the Economic Development Corporation, and we've got some fast facts and et cetera. We tried to design all of these so that they're within the city branding, but they're all individual and they stand alone. So let's see, this is the McKinney National Airport. This is the 3rd one. This one was launched at the same time as the main one. And we have a section also for the FBO, the place where everybody lands when they come to the airport. So we just added the McKinney Community Development Corporation last year, and that was a little bit later in the year. And this is a little bit about them, and we're doing a quality of life survey with them right now. And let's see here, I got the EDC again. I need the CVB there. This is the CVB. Got the image coming up there. So each one of these sites, they're different. They approach different audiences, and so they have interest in different analytics each month. So as I created the reports for each of the different sites, I kind of looked at who they are and what they need to know. And that's part of doing analytics, is looking at your audience and saying, what do they need to know? What's helpful for their audience? So for the intranet, we collect analytics, but we don't report on geography. But for the CVB, we do, because it's important to them to know where their constituents come from, where the visitors come from. And then I want to show you the intranet, but it seems to have disappeared, so. How often do you get a glimpse into somebody else's intranet, right? When I thought about doing this session, I thought, well, maybe everybody here already knows everything I'm going to tell them, but I thought, well, even if that's true, how often do you get to see how another city reports analytics, And hopefully I'll get to learn from you as well. Oh, no, sorry about that. So this is our intranet, and I'm going to get out of this. My CMS seems to still be on. So this is our intranet, and we've got that rotating banner. We've got some buttons for the most popular things, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, especially for the main website. But this is one way that we use Google Analytics. When we're designing a website and creating a new website, we want to know where people are going, what they want, what they're interested in, and then we try and highlight those things on the websites. And it's an ongoing process. Every year or two, I try and go through the entire main website at least, and visit with all the departments and go through report their analytics to them, and go through item by item, page by page, and say, look, you're getting 40 hits a year on this page, do you really need it? And try and keep it. It really helps us govern how many pages we have on the website, and helps us highlight the ones that are important. So this is the home page of our intranet. We do have this carousel here that talks about current items and video spotlight. We've got our big Oktoberfest celebration coming up, and a calendar. And then we've got our Facebook feed here and some useful links. So that's what our intranet looks like. And then we've got tons of information out here for everybody. It was a struggle because we started out with everything on our X drive, and then there were multiple copies of things, so we've tried to channel everybody now through the intranet. When I came on board, we had one that was built in the 70s sometime, or at least it looked like that. And so that was, nobody could really work with it. It was pretty bad. So those are the city websites, and I'm going to be talking about those here in a little bit, and the way we report on them. So first of all, what is Google Analytics? I know we all kind of know what Google Analytics is, but how they describe it, it's a platform that collects data and compiles it into useful reports. It's that simple. You know, it seems kind of scary to me sometimes because can be kind of complicated, and you can go pretty deep with it if you want to. But I haven't had a need for a lot of that at the city where I work. We have done I think it was the EDC, actually contracted with a Google AdWords company, and they did a huge campaign and all of that, and there were no results from it. So, you know, we haven't found that it's necessary to go into that for the main city websites. That compiling it into useful reports is an important idea. You know, what is useful? How are people going to how are they going to internalize the data? What are they going to do with it? How do you set it? How do you lay it out so it makes sense to people? We had a new guy come on at the airport a little while back, and I included him on the list of people who receives the analytics, and he called me. He said, can you take about 20 minutes and explain all this to me? Because I kind of assume that what I know, other people know, but it's not true. So that's part of keeping it simple as well. And if people don't understand, you know, having the time to be able to explain it to them so they can interpret and make decisions about their website as well. It collects information about how a person interacted with the site, what device they came in on, what browser, how long they stayed on a page, what page they came in on, what page they exited from. You can report on language, location, type of browser, device, operating system, and how they got to the site. And when the page loads, that's actually when Google Analytics collects the information about the activity. So one thing I'll mention is that Google Analytics is always changing. They're always looking at how they're reporting information. And they'll change their interface quite frequently, and I'm like, oh no, something's different here. I've got to figure this one out. So they used to have a category called visits, and then all of a sudden it changed to sessions. And I think that was more to include the e-commerce and that kind of thing, for people coming to the website for any kind of purpose, not just to look at a page. So it's activity on the site during a specific date range. And that's kind of the dominant metric that we'll use. Okay, I'm going to use analytics and metrics kind of in combination. I've been trying to figure out a good definition of which one is which and what it means and whether they're absolutely interchangeable. The best I've been able to figure out is the analytics are the raw data and the metrics are the kind of an interpretation of the data. Does anybody have any thoughts about metrics versus analytics or a better definition than that? So I'll just go with what I've been able to find on Google. Google, by the way, I love Google. Oh my God, it's like the Oracle. Anything I need to know. And that definitely applies to Google Analytics. So, kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. So sessions, it's activity on the site during a specific date. Oh, I was going to talk about Google Analytics changing. You just have to adapt and figure out the next thing that they've got coming, because they're always doing something different. So it's activity on the site during a specific date range, and it begins when a user navigates to a page that has a Google Analytics code. How many people actually have Google Analytics code on your website now? Okay, so how many do not have Google Analytics on your site? Okay, well, I'm briefly going to go through how to set it up. It's actually pretty simple. If I could do it, I mean, a writer, and I did voiceovers for a while too, so it's not terribly technical work, and so if I can do it, anybody can do it. So it's not that hard. And there's so many resources out on the internet right now. You just Google it, and there it is. Begins when a user navigates to a page that has Google Analytics code. On our particular website, you can't put different code on different pages. You got to put it throughout. I don't know if that's true for every website, but for ours it is. And it ends when a user's been inactive for 30 minutes. And if a user returns after a session ends, a new session begins. What people sometimes want to know is, how many people came to my website? Well, the sessions number, it can be deceiving if you use that number and interpret it that way. It's not true. So sessions are going to be, it's not people. So if the same person came to your site 4 times, they're going to be counted 4 times if it's more than 30 minutes apart. So understand that these numbers, you can't equate sessions with people. There are other metrics that you can look at that can help with that, but it's not definitive that way. I noticed that some people that I work with in the communications and marketing department, which I'm part of, they want to know how many people came, how many were new, how many people were returning visitors. Well, I can tell you, I can give you a good idea, but I can't pinpoint it exactly because of the way Google Analytics works. So users is another number that Google Analytics offers. They've initiated at least 1 session during the date range. And this, again, does not equate to the number of people who came to the site. So if they came to the site at work, and then they came to the site from home, the computers they're on would be using a different IP address, and that's how visitors are counted. So you could have the same person coming on their phone, on their laptop at home, on their work computer. So you really don't have a great idea of how many people actually came to your website. There are ways to create custom reports, which I've done. I'm not going to go into that today, but just know that that's available, and you can Google how to do that. Love Google. So page views, that's a really useful definition. It's a much bigger number than sessions, obviously, but when you drill down to individual pages, that's when this really becomes a useful number, because you can see how many people came to that particular page and how long they stayed there and all that kind of thing. So again, repeat views of a page are counted. The pages per session. It's the average number of pages viewed during a session. So sometimes we'll get a decimal point in there, and I'm like, okay, so how do you get a decimal point in there for, did you get half of a visitor or what, you know? So average session duration, the average length of a session. Now, there's not a number that's good and bad in that, I don't think. I mean, if somebody comes for specific information and they get what they wanted and they leave, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want, right? A longer session doesn't mean better. That's what I'm saying. Bounce rate. This is the percentage of page views that were the only one of the sessions. Someone came to it and off they went. They might have come from a link from a newsletter. They might have come from a poster with a custom URL on it or something like that, and then they leave from there. Again, not bad, but it's just a clue as to the behavior for that page. Do people come and stay? Do people come and go? Exit rate, and that's a percentage of page views that were the last in the session. Someone left the site from that page. So just briefly, setting up a Google Analytics account If you need to set that up, you go to analytics.google.com and create what I call a mother account. So Google has another category for account within Google Analytics, and it's different from this overall account. And I'm going to let you know some good advice from my mistakes. So one of the best things to do when you set this up is to use an email address that's not individual to a person. In other words, I have webmaster@mckinneytexas.org. That's what I should have done to anchor that account. But at the time, I was pretty inexperienced and I didn't know that. So if you're going to set up an account, I would suggest using a general email. And in our email system, you can put different recipients on that email. So if I were to leave the city, they could have another person that could get in with that email. You're going to have to add at least one account, and then you just follow the prompts to get the tracking code. And that tracking code is what reports back to Google what's going on the site. For us, since we're a Civic Plus customer, we have a partner, and I don't actually enter the code on the site. I send it to them, and then their support folks put it in. How many people have websites that are built in-house? Okay, and how many have a managed solution like Civic Plus or something? Okay, good, interesting. Since my background is writing and managing and, well, voiceovers, but you know, that doesn't apply too much. I'm not inclined toward coding and that sort of thing. So having a partner like that has been a real great thing for us. And I know there are a lot of good vendors out there. I'm not necessarily touting Civic Plus as the only one, but you know, there are many others that are good. But just for my experience level, it's a perfect solution. The code gets placed before the closing head tag in the website, and then they always suggest checking the real-time reports to make sure it's working. And the code's always available in case something happens. We lost some code on our EDC site when we redesigned last year, and so we missed about a month of data, and we had to reinstall the code, so I had to go back to Google Analytics and pull the code again. So it's always available there. So when you're setting up a Google Analytics account, overall account, and you start adding your sites, you can set them up as in any way that serves you. So it depends on if you're managing multiple websites, you might want to set up multiple mother accounts because you might want to spin off one of those accounts to a client at some point. If it's just your city or your county, you might just have it all under one account. In our case, and I don't know when Google Analytics changed this, but it's been in the last year or two that the interface actually changed, where we have all of our sites as an account, and then I'll show you in a minute what I mean by properties and views, but it'll make more sense when I show you the image in just a minute. So the message here is to set up the account as you need it for the way you report analytics, whether you're reporting internally or for outside clients or however it works. You can set up views, and this is what it looks like. This will be a little more helpful. So when I come into Google Analytics, I see all of our websites there as accounts. That's on the left there. Those are all of our websites lined up there. So then you can add a property to an individual account. And in the case of adding a property, you can add you pull a different set of code. So for instance, we have the Apex Center, which is our aquatics and workout facility. And with Apex Center, they have something called ActiveNet, and they wanted to report analytics for ActiveNet. Well, I really didn't want to combine that with the analytics for the main website because it could skew what we were getting. And so I worked with ActiveNet to set up this other property. So in that property, I got the Google Analytics code, I sent it to them, they added a little bit of their code, they sent it back to me, I sent it to Civic Plus, and it got installed in the website. And now we have two properties here. So I report Apex Center analytics from the Apex Center property and the main analytics for the main website from the other one. So you can also set up views. There's automatically one view, which is the overall view. You have all data that comes in there. But one of the benefits of the views is that you can filter. I'm not going to go into the exact details, but once you get into Google Analytics and look for the specific step-by-step instructions online, it'll tell you exactly what to do. But the purpose for it is you can filter. Let's say you wanted to filter out internal traffic. We haven't chosen to do that because we feel like it's valid traffic. So, but we could. But the caution there is if you're going to set up another view, make sure you keep the master view, because if you don't keep the master view and you change the master view to filter out, let's say, internal traffic, you're losing data. You want to keep that master view for sure. So this was a little confusing at first. I didn't understand it, and after I found out, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. It gives a lot more flexibility. It's not as simple as the way it was before they changed it, but it gives a lot more capability. So Google Analytics has navigation on the left side, and these are all the different categories they have: home, customization, real-time, audience, acquisition, behavior, conversions, discover, and admin. So admin is where you're going to go if you need to go back and get your code at some point. And the rest of these, they're not necessarily totally intuitive in my world, because I still kind of struggle to find things sometimes. When you get away from the left navigation, it's over here on the left. You're not seeing it right now, but this is the audience overview. And this is usually where I start when I'm reporting. And what I've done here is kind of pointed out some things that I use when I create the reports that I'm going to show you in a little bit. So the first thing to do is definitely choose a date range. I've kind of tripped myself up a number of times in forgetting that I was looking under another date range, and then I look at the numbers and they look strange. So I have to go back and check the date range. And you can also choose to compare to another set of data, another date range, which is kind of a nice thing to have. There's a lot of flexibility here. If you go over here to select a metric, you can go down on that drop down and you can indicate different metrics other than sessions in the graph. Then the basic audience data, I actually start with that on my reports, and I report that at the very top. So people can just see a basic quick rundown. So this report gives me a good part of what I actually need. And then the new and returning visitors is helpful also. So you can see how many people came to the site newly, or on a computer whose IP address it hadn't been recorded earlier, or returning or new visitors. So, okay, so that's the basic audience overview, and I usually start with that. So I'm going to check in a little bit with everybody. Is this giving you what you were hoping for? Is this kind of what you came for today? Just kind of a show of hands. Is this yes or no? It's good? Okay. All right. Good. Okay. The other thing that has been very helpful in creating reports is the export function. And I use a couple of different ones. I use the PDF function occasionally when I want to give somebody the whole thing that's on a Google Analytics page. But if I want to import it into some sort of a report that I'm doing, which is what I mainly do each month, I will go down to CSV, and I'll open it as a CSV file and just copy the information from there, especially when I'm doing like I do the top 25 pages on the website each month, whichever website it is, and I'll capture that data. I'll capture geographic data and that kind of thing. So very, very helpful function, and it's on virtually every page of Google Analytics. So I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I put it in the presentation so you have a little roadmap later on. So you can find out what's happening right now under real time, basic audience information. Audience is in that main left navigation for Google, and then you just go to overview, geographic information, drill down. So each one of these is going to give you the roadmap to get to these different analytics that you can then find these later on. Mobile, tablet, desktop traffic, social media referrals. That's been very helpful for us to see how our social media referrals have grown. Search terms, search terms is great. One of the things that happens, though, if you'll notice, under organic search, one of the main things people say is, what are people searching for on the website? So that's definitely available in Google Analytics, but there at the top is that big whopping not provided metric, right? So what on earth do you do with that? Well, you can get some, used to be called Webmaster Tools. Search Console can help. You can, again, Google that if you'd like to set that up, but it has a few more tools. It's only 90 days of data, but there's a little more information there. Ours is usually pretty much the same. It's almost all City of McKinney, you know? And so for the most part, will just take the data that's here and not worry about the not provided part. But the not provided, when I looked that up, it's really about security, and Google just doesn't report on some of that for people who don't choose to report the information. So anyway, it does take away a lot of the data that would be coming in. Page traffic, that's one of the things that is really one of the most important things to the people, the constituents that I provide the reports for. They want to know what's their top page, how many people came to it. Some of them go as far as bounce rate, but probably not, but I do provide that other information as well. In Google Analytics, you can vary the number of results that you output. I choose top 25. You could do top 50, top 10, whatever works for your websites. And you can go further with it. So here we're looking at the report of the pages for this particular date range. And if you look at what I've got 10 items in there. So the reason that's outlined in orange, because I'm going to drill down into that. So this is the basic information. You have your page views, unique page views. You have average time on page. I can't read that. Entrance, exits, bounce rate, etc. So you've got all this information here. But on each page, you might want to know exactly what happened with that page. So then you can drill down into that page and see how many hits they had. You can look at the graph. You can do a navigation summary to see who came to that page and where they went after they left. So navigation summary is outlined in orange up there. And so then you can get to the page that shows how people got there and how people left. So you can see kind of how people are traveling through your website to that page. So that can be helpful information if you're trying to determine how people are getting information. So I do reports every month, and as I mentioned before, it's important to understand your constituents and to design a report containing that information. And I just want to stop for just a minute and see if anybody, I'd love to hear what anybody else is doing as far as reporting now. Yeah.
Something I've just started to look into is Google's Data Studio,
Mm-hmm.
which is a beta, and the reporting is much more dynamic, and I think much more useful than the dashboards that are built in the analytics.
Mm-hmm.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's available now. It's so awesome.
What is it called?
It's called Google Data Studio. You can connect it directly to your analytics account.
How do you report to your constituents? Who do you report to? Are you the only one who consumes the data, or are there other people?
We don't have a super organized way to do it right now, but
Yeah.
we have a team that kind of does that, and we're moving towards using more Google Analytics.
Uh-huh. I see. Anybody else? What kind of reporting you do? Yeah.
I just use our standard Google Analytic reporting tools, but this is just interesting food for thought. We had a pretty significant earthquake in our Napa County 2 years back, and we opened up a local assistance center. It took quite a while to curate a space to have our physical local assistance center, so we spun up a virtual website. It was our last, and I attached Google Analytics to it. And prior to us getting our FEMA declaration, everybody was clamoring as to when that was going to happen. So what I was
So you reported out, you pulled out the geographic information and pulled out a PDF of
And
it?
so what that did is it really changed the content that we were putting on those pages, because it was really all about us and what we wanted, rather than, and once we changed the content, it made it more about what the declaration would do for us. Our declaration was granted within a couple of days, but it really helped in reporting out, having them see the value, and then also change the strategy of the whole web content.
Mhm. And who were you sending the report to? Is that-
County Executive Office and the office.
Wow, very cool. So does anybody else do systematic reporting, like monthly or weekly or yearly or anything? Yeah. Yeah, what do you report typically?
I report the top 10 pages.
Uh-huh.
I report, or more, could be. I also do on Chrome,
Mhm.
the hot spots on there.
Oh, yeah.
And how they got there, what the changes have been from the different browsers, by keyword,
Mhm.
if they were looking something, election results, things like that are events that happen, they want to know.
And who consumes the reports? Who sees them?
I give it to the IT people, I give it to my boss, that's the county administrator, the county board, and some departments that request it. They don't, the health department requests it, and elections.
Mhm. Cool. Anybody else do reporting? Yes.
I just had a question about constituents and the reports that you create.
Uh-huh.
Do you find that they are asking you for them or waiting for you to give them to them? Are they seeking them out? Do they want them? That's my problem in our realm for the 20 years I've been with the city of Ankeny is they could care less. I mean, originally I created reports and I diligently gave them out month by month.
Yeah.
And then occasionally I was so busy I forgot to do it, and then again I forget to do it, and I wouldn't get it done, and nobody noticed.
Yeah. Well, I realize I'm not the star of the show, you know? People aren't waiting breathlessly necessarily for the analytics, but there are groups who are. The CVB bases their reporting every month to their board on the analytics that we pull from their site. My team looks at it with communications and marketing, and our team looks at it to find out how much activity we're getting from various different campaigns and that kind of thing. I've had, like I said, we have 6 websites, 2 of which are internal. It's the main website and the intranet. But then the other, I actually had requests, and which I met with kind of mixed feelings because it takes time to pull these reports, you know. And so I had other requests, so now I'm reporting on all 6 of our websites. Plus, I have quarterly data that I provide to the police department, and I actually do some extra quarterly information on the main website as well. And then there are some groups that just want the top 25. They don't need all the other information, so I just send them the top 25 because they're typically in it with several pages. So it's kind of grown, kind of like this amoeba is kind of takes over my life one time a month, you know. So. It's a mix. Yes.
It really helped us for redesigning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it was time to
Yeah.
create the pages, people wanted all this content.
Mm-hmm.
So it really helped us to say, look, nobody goes there. So,
Yeah.
you know, we really don't need that many pages about us.
Right.
And we really need it about our services.
Right. That's an excellent point. Excellent point. I've done it a couple times, but it takes a lot of time to pull the data for every department and sit down with them. I mean, ideally, I do this once a year. Sit down with them and go page by page, force them, nail them to their chair. Because if you send it to them and they say, oh, we'll look through it, they don't. You know, but to set a meeting and to take the time with the people who can make decisions and say, look, these are the pages and these are the number of visits you're getting to it. And then they see and they go, oh, well, nobody's really going to that, are they? Yeah.
No, I echo what you're saying. It's a great tool to make the dialogue. It's not personal.
Yeah.
If you want to get rid of a certain page,
Yeah.
the data speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
And it's a great opportunity to consolidate content.
Mhm. Absolutely. Anybody else? Yes.
As part of our annual report, for some reason, they want to know exactly how many people came to visit our site last year. I haven't had a hard time explaining to them, you know, what a session is, especially since we recently switched our analytics from, I forgot the name of it, to Google.
Mhm.
And you had talked
right.
And I don't know what point I'm trying to make, except that I do have a question as far as Google session. I think you said it's an interval of time.
30 minutes, I think, yeah.
Is that controllable, or is that just their standard?
I haven't seen anything that says it's controllable. From what I read, it appears to be static, but I don't know for sure.
So
Yeah.
that's a really abstract concept
Mhm.
to give to people who have no idea what
Right,
the technical side of stuff is. So they look
Right.
at the data that we're producing, and I think they think, wow, that's awesome. We've
Mhm.
got 18 million people visiting
Yeah.
our site.
yeah. One thing I'll say about that, and then I'll come back to you. I do a little graph on each one of the reports I provide. I just generated in Excel, and it shows the ups and downs of the website. So if somebody doesn't do anything else, they can see if their website is up or down based on sessions. So whether they really understand what sessions are or not, there is this number that we're using every month to evaluate the change in traffic to the website. So I think some people are that level of sophistication with it, while others really want to know more information. So, yes.
I was gonna say, at the top of my monthly reports, I always have the same thing on the top,
Mhm.
explaining what each thing is in easy terms, so they can look at it and see it, because they forget every month. And also, not every month, I also do the comparison,
Mhm.
so I can compare. So once a month I do the monthly, but then 3 times a month I will compare.
Compare in what way?
Compare this month's activity with that month's activity.
How is that consumed? What does somebody do with that? Or who uses it and what do they do with
Well, I
it?
give it to the people
Uh-huh.
that have it, but
Yeah.
you can see what is important at this time of event,
Mhm.
for example.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, thank you.
Or how things are changing.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
I do it quarterly and then do it overall at the end of the year.
Mhm.
But I really use the analytics to my benefit.
Mm.
So as we change content, add new pages, or take pages down, I can say for this period of time,
Mhm.
we've increased users. And then I focus too on the exit rates.
Mhm.
Because that kind of shows, people are coming to your site, well, how long are they really staying here?
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of use that data to kind of push my agenda.
Yeah, and that's very valid. I'll be talking about that in just a second here. Anybody else before we move on? Thank you very much for sharing. I learned something too. Okay, come on. It's not going anywhere. Why isn't it? Help. I don't know why it's not moving. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. Okay. So these are the things, I've mentioned this before, and we're getting a little short on time, but these are the things that I report, and I'll show you visually here in just a minute. That was the monthly, the quarterly, and the yearly, and that'll be in my presentation, and you can pull that later if you want that. So this is the report that I do on the main website every month. And if you'll notice, I have the basic information up at the top, sessions, users, etc. And then I have that graph. And you notice it went way up, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. And then I do 1 year. So people can look at how their traffic has changed for 1 year. And then I do the top 25. And typically I'll highlight anything that seems to have changed drastically or is out of the usual. And I don't have any highlighting on there, but I report all this. And it's not laborious to do. I pull that CSV file and copy and just paste it right in there. And then I have to do a little juggling around in Excel, but it's not a big deal. It's pretty simple. The reason I do the page name is because sometimes there are pages, our pages actually have the name of the page in them now, but at one time they didn't. And then there are other items on the website that aren't as clear. So I just go ahead and put the name in for every page. So somebody who's unsophisticated with the analytics can just go down and see what the actual page was rather than having to jockey a URL, So that's the main website. I also I keep a running total of, back till from 2011 of the website traffic, and that's what you're seeing there. But within that, there's a story, you know, and there's a story of when we have two large peaks at the beginning. That was our old website before we went to Civic Plus, and then we had a kind of a low, and then we kind of came back up again, and then we just took off. And I'll tell you in a minute what that was, but there's a story in there, and having that little graph there to look at helps see the story over time. And it's good, you know, to share that story, so if I'm not there anymore, people know what the analytics are telling them. All right, so this one is for our CVB, and I've got the whole report in here because I wanted to show you an entire report. So you notice their traffic is much less than the main website. And we have the graph. I have the graph for them. They're yearly, month by month. And actually my boss said, I really want to see this June and last June. So I keep one more month in there. And then the top 25. So for them every month, because it's important to them, I give the country breakdown, the state breakdown, and the city breakdown. And so, you know, for them, as they're doing their marketing, they can see where the people are coming from. They can see that a lot of the traffic to the website comes from Dallas, you know, so they can choose to market to Dallas. And this is the full history I was mentioning. I keep a full history, and that's where I get the graph at the top, is from that full history. So that's the monthly reporting we do, and I do a yearly report very much like that, only I just change the date span and do the yearly report. Then recently, council wanted a little bit of information about the websites. And so I pulled the information, and one of my coworkers developed this particular narrative about the website and the website traffic. So she put in some nice colorful graphs, and one of the things I really stressed, my boss likes to be very complete about things, and people have different ways of dealing with information. I'm more kind of top level, that's my tendency. So what I suggested as we were doing this report is to keep it simple, and that's another thing that, you know, one of the things I wanted to stress in this session. Unless somebody asks for deeper information, it's probably overwhelming already, because we know what all this means and we know how to interpret it, but the constituents out there don't. And so keep it simple, and then if more information is needed, you can pull more information. But she did this really nice report, and I thought it was valuable to show and to put into the presentation so you can have an example of that if you want to create one of your own. So she has a little bit of an explanation of what those various numbers mean, and then the nice graphic. Here we're talking about the geographic information for the main website. We're just really talking about the main website. We have all these others, but everybody focuses on the main website primarily. And then the state, and then Texas. So then we talked about social media referral pages, and we left out Facebook because Facebook would have taken over the whole thing. So after Facebook accounted for 91% of all social referrals, and then the rest are shown here. How are we doing on time? Pretty good. So talking about the top 25 pages and the top organic search items. So we talked a little bit about, okay, so any questions about that? What I was just talking about. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little about making website decisions, and we're not really complicated about this. We look at two things. We look at where the high traffic is, how are we going to make it convenient for the people coming to the website, and we're also looking at city priorities. We're looking at what's important to the city of McKinney to let people know. Everybody knows about transparency now, but a few years ago, nobody did. And a lot of people out in the public may know the concept, but not the word as we know it. And so the city priority of transparency needed to be in our buttons on our main website. And this was, like I said, we redesigned last year. And so we needed to decide, what did we want to put here now? We had some items in some buttons before, but we're looking at what are things like now. We're redesigning, we can redo things. So we looked at what had high traffic, and then we looked at city priorities. We want to bring more people in to get information in more ways. So we have an e-newsletter, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we're on Nextdoor, you know, we have all this social media, and we also want people to come and consume the information that we're putting out on the website so they can stay informed about the city and what's happening in the city. So it's a combination, and that's probably the main message about this. It's not just what the analytics tell us, it's also what the city is trying to bring to the citizens. We also use I'm looking for in that regard. You know, people are going to go there to look for popular things. I can look at the analytics and say these are the things people are looking for, and then that can help populate I'm looking for. So some things to just here to wrap it up. Look a little deeper, and I've got some examples here to show you what I mean by that, and investigate anomalies, and that's related. I mentioned before, Google Analytics is always changing, and they're improving. Sometimes I resist that improvement because it means I've got to figure out something new with it, but it's always changing, and usually for the better. Use Google Search. There's a wealth of step-by-step information out there, and there are a lot of tutorials, and I have some resources at the end that have links to those. So this is one of the anomalies. If you'll notice on that graph, we had this huge bump in traffic one month, and it affected a couple sites, but this happens to be the CVB site. So as I looked at this, I'm like, that month, all I saw was this spike in traffic. So I didn't know if maybe they'd done some sort of campaign that I didn't know about, and they had this spike in traffic. All I'm seeing is this one blip. I didn't see the blip that stopped and it went back to normal, right? So how do I know if it's not going to keep going that way? So I started delving into the geographic information. And if you'll notice, we had 3,000 hits, more than 3,000 hits from Oregon. And that's very, very unusual. And then you go down to Portland, and they all pretty much came from Portland. It's like there's no reason that that many hits should come from Portland or anything. So we realized that it was probably some sort of a DDoS attack or something like that was buffered by Civic Plus. They've got some pretty good capacity. So that, you know, it at least helped explain it. And so that's what I mean by dig a little deeper. That one is fairly obvious, but on the main website, you remember I showed you the graph where the traffic went way up. It went way up just after we redesigned. And so I'm like, at first I'm like, wow, look at that. We got this brand new website and everybody's just loving on our website. But, you know, when we looked a little deeper, we didn't realize that we weren't gathering mobile data before. And so when Google Analytics started reporting the mobile data, we got more realistic numbers. And this is that long list of monthly traffic. And if you'll notice, it jumps up and it just keeps going up from there. So, you know, it's just look a little deeper. If you see something different, look a little deeper. So where you can see what happened, January 1st to June 30th, if you'll notice, the mobile traffic is only like 2-point-something% of our traffic. But after July 1st through December 31st, we went live with the new website July 8th. You'll notice now it's 40-some%. So the analytics can help fill in the story about why things are happening on your website and why the traffic is what it is. So I hope you've gotten a little bit about how to use Google Analytics to make decisions. I hope you know where to go for the information, or you can get it from my presentation, and that you'll kind of keep it simple for people as needed. So these are the resources, and you can go to our website. There's the mckinneytexas.org/NAGW 2017, and some sample reports are available there if you want to download them. I've kept them in Excel format, so you could use them as a template if you wish. So I will put a period there and see if there are any questions. Comments? Yes?
Do you guys have a login area, like an account as a citizen, and you track that separately?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you have a login area where if I live in McKinney, I can open an account and log in, and do you track that differently?
Not on the website per se. We have a couple some applications where that's true. You can sign up to create a login for getting parks classes and special events, or for water bill and things like that. We have a Notify Me module where people can sign up to get, we send out agendas and that sort of thing. So there are specific applications, but not the website in toto. Yeah. Yes? I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you give staff in your organization access to Google Analytics, or you just kind of take on that role and share your reports?
I'm staff.
Yeah, beyond yourself.
Yeah, I do it myself, yes, yes.
One question I had was, when I look for the top 10 pages from a website, number one is always some weird name.
Hmm.
Do you have that on yours?
I have a slash, usually it's a slash.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, it just means, so on our website, it means that if you look at Google Analytics and how it's reporting the data, let me see if I can get back there.
It's your home?
Yeah, it's home, so it's,
What about if you have your home called something else, like we have ours is welcome?
yeah,
So when you look at, there's welcome reported also.
It might have the root to that.
The root to that. Okay, well, I assumed it was
Mhm,
that, but
yeah.
you know what they say.
yeah. Well, the way I think about it is that the base URL is mckinneytexas.org. And anything after that identifies the page, and after the slash, right? There's a slash and then some more information to identify the page. And so I always think of that slash as the base URL to the left of it. And I'm not, huh?
That's very good.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
The page names that you were talking about earlier,
Uh-huh.
did you assign those with Google Analytics?
No.
So is it in your CMS?
Yes. Yes. So the page names I actually do manually. They are in that left column. Let's see if I can get back to the report and show you. So you've got the URL over here, right? But over here, for people who are not real fluent with URLs and that sort of thing, I just put a very simple message, this is the page. So they understand that.
So every report you actually.
Yes, I do that manually, yeah. Yeah.
I was hoping I said that.
Sorry. Well, sometimes it wants to auto-populate, but it's often wrong. You know? Yes.
So there is that option within Google Analytics.
Oh, good.
Change it from URL to page title.
Oh, good. Cool. So where is that?
I always have to poke around until I can figure it out. It's an option, it wasn't.
Well, good. I learned something today, too. It might make my life more simple. Anybody else? Yes.
I just have a comment. I don't
Yeah.
actually do any Google Analytics at all for the organization I work for.
Uh-huh.
When you were mentioning that people have a really hard time paying attention to the reports they're hearing,
Mhm.
I wasn't naturally drawn to our keynote speech, and I thought in my head, how could you find it fun
Mm.
in delivering the analytics to people?
Yeah.
Essentially, it's like, here's a bottle.
Right.
Well,
Right.
this is
Exactly.
working, that's the bottle.
Yeah.
But how do you find something
Yeah.
more engaging? Because it is pretty utilitarian,
Mhm.
necessarily just this is how people are interacting with it, but how do we use it, or how do we display that information in a more
Right.
engaging way?
That's actually a great point. And I love that previous speaker. What was the comment? I didn't hear the comment. Oh, I thought somebody said.
Oh, fireworks. Say fireworks.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That report that my coworker did for council, I thought was pretty nice. It's not bells and whistles and fireworks, but it's colorful, it's simple, it leads people through a story about the analytics. So, I'm providing the gruel and she's providing the filet mignon, or however you want to do it, what's a great dessert? Anyway, any other questions or comments? Yes?
The change you had in your mobile reporting,
Mm-hmm.
what was it that you changed specifically on your site? I'm just wondering
Yeah.
now, are we getting an accurate report on our mobile, or what was the changeover?
Are you with a vendor? No.
We just have an in-house CMS that we're running.
Is your mobile site separate from your main site?
No.
So,
We're not, we're really behind.
Yeah.
We're not mobile responsive. So
Yeah.
Our mobile numbers are very small, and we're
Mhm.
going to be doing a redesign that'll make our site, we'll be moving it into Drupal.
right.
So maybe that's what that's.
It happened.
Because that's,
yeah.
you have a new site.
Right. So
Site.
we
Okay.
were with Civic Plus the whole time, but we changed from one platform to another. And that new platform, it was responsive and incorporated the mobile traffic within it. On the other website, there was a very bare bones. It was Google liked it. We were Google friendly, but it was like a separate parallel website, and so it just didn't Google Analytics didn't pick it up, and perhaps it was my, my error not figuring out a way to report that, but, it just, that's the way it happened.
And we just have a
Yeah.
single site.
So
what
you're
we
you're
used to-
probably fine.
That's why, yeah,
Are you on Google? What's percentage are you getting of mobile traffic now?
our whole traffic's like 15, 70%.
That seems a little low, but, it could be just the way your constituents access it. But more will be revealed in time, Yeah,
I can
exactly.
comment that for when we did our redesign to be mobile friendly,
Uh-huh.
we went from about 20% to 50%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.